All right, we're ready to get going here. So, welcome everybody. My name is Connie Reeves, and I'm from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. And I'm going to be showing you kind of an abbreviated version of the Skip the Bunny pattern. And if you haven't seen it, it's available up on Ravelry, and there's a handout here that lists the designer and where you can find that information. I'm not going to be doing the exact pattern that she has got on here because it is a paid pattern, and we did get permission to do it. But I want to show you some variations that I have done with it. So I encourage you, if you really want to get into the pattern, go ahead and buy it from her because it's great to support all of our other artists out there. But I'm going to be showing you some little variations that I did, as well as ways that I simplified the pattern a little bit to help myself so that I could sell these. The first one that I made took me about 4.5 hours to make. And so we are not going to be here for 4.5 hours making a bunny, I promise. But I am going to show you some of the basics of how I do the little outfits and what I do with the ears, and some of the little changes that I've made. You can obviously play with it as much as you want. They're really kind of fun to do. I was afraid when I first did the first ones that I started to do the variations, whether anybody would be interested in or buy them. They're my hot sellers. They go first. And they're a great way to use up all the scrap yarn. As I was telling some people earlier, this little bunny that I've got here, I bought this yarn here at the Crank-In, and I don't remember the company offhand, but the yarn was called Strawberry Festival or something. I made 2 pairs of the lemonade socks. So if you've seen the lemonade sock pattern, I made 2 pairs of lemonade sock pattern, and then this was what I had left over for the yarn. So I did the little bunny with that. And you notice I didn't have enough to completely do the ears, so I just gave them little stripes in the ears. I could have easily made it white also, but I thought it would be kind of fun to do the little stripes in the ears too. And I've had some that I've done completely one solid ear, or I've done one that's been the same as the body, and then some sort of variation. It's fun to just play with them and just give them their own little personality. So to talk about a little bit of how I do this, let's get us started. Whoops. Flying bunnies. So I'm going to change my yarn here. Whoops, as I drop my pick too. So I've got the machine cast on already. So I'm actually starting from the feet end up. And you're going to do a long tail. I actually make it longer than I normally would do that, because when I go to finish this, I'm going to use this to help sew up the legs as well as the little tail on the back. And you'll notice that I'm not doing the pom-pom. So if you've got the pattern, she does the handmade pom-pom on it. I changed that because one of the bunnies that I needed to do was going to go to a small child. And so I couldn't have the button eyes. And then I started to think about the pom-pom tail. And I thought, that's going to be a problem because the little kid could pull those little strands of yarn right out. So I bought some commercially made pom-poms and have been using those instead. They came in like a package of 20 at Hobby Lobby for like, I don't remember, $3, $4 or something. And then I just decided, since I have a package of 20, I'll keep going making bunnies. But they turn out really cute. And you can get them in different colors and stuff too. But I leave this long tail just so I can do the sewing of the feet and have that tail all in one. And then I don't have to keep changing yarns all the time. So I'm going to drop that in there. And to do its feet, I crank 20 rows. Whoops, I dropped a stitch right there, right off the beginning. All right. So you could obviously, if you wanted more feet showing. You can make it taller or shorter. You can play with it as much as you want. I'm going to just snip my thread here. I'm going to give this one a little dress so you can see how you do the little edge. This is just some yarn I've got sitting around here that I need to use up. It's a great project for just using up all those extra. You've made a pair of socks or two. You got extra cones, you know, you got all these little leftover cones like this. What do you do with it? This is enough to make the little outfit and even probably the ears on the bunny if you needed to. So I'll add this in. And I'll do 5 rows. Let me get that tail in there. I usually work the tail back in. Obviously do what's best for you. And then I'm going to picot this. So I'll go all the way around, just every other one, doing that little picot.
What size cylinder are you using?
This one right now is on a 64. Her pattern is listed, I think, at a 72. Somebody got it handy there. I have made them in all different cylinders. The first one I did on a 72.
It doesn't make them any bigger or smaller?
It does a little bit, but even with following the pattern, the ratio just all seems to kind of work. So, and it doesn't even matter if you've run, oops, I ran 3 rows instead of, 2 that I needed or whatever it is. You're really not going to notice it, and it just gives it a little more personality. So I'm just going around. So this is going to create that little ruffled edge on that bottom. You could even leave it straight if you wanted to. If I'm doing it without, I don't know if I have one with me. There's a picture of one, maybe. I guess not. If you didn't want to do the little ruffled edge, I would just change the yarn and just do the body from there. But it's kind of cute with the little ruffled edge. But I have done this on the 60, the 64, and the 54 cylinder, and they all turn out great. So use whatever you got. But I think she's specifically written for 72, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you used anything other than sock yarn?
Not yet.
Okay. I have.
If you saw the ornaments that I've done yesterday, I've used crochet cotton on those. But I haven't tried that with the bunnies. I feel like they need to be more squishy and playful. I have used, there's a yarn that you can get at Hobby Lobby. I forget what it's called. It comes in a little ball. It's about $4 a yard, or $4 a ball. It's super soft. It comes in like a pink color. I think the pink one, the pink one in the front there on that bottom photo is that yarn. And that makes really a soft little bunny. It's a yarn bee yarn. It's kind of velvety almost. And I've bought that in other colors. I haven't made them yet, but I have used the pink. Let me get a couple more here.
It's not chenille.
No, it's not chenille, but it's almost at that consistency. I have some in the suitcase if you want to see it afterwards.
Usually you just have to adjust your tension.
Yeah, just adjust the tension a little bit. It's it's an acrylic blend of some sort, and it's kind of a mottled pink color. It's not solid pink, and then they have like a navy and gray and blue, and that turns out really cute. So I'll just continue working around on my picot here. checking all of those to make sure I got them all. And then I'm going to do 5 more rows. I'm going to take my weights off, set them aside, and then I'll hang that little edge. So this is going to be the bottom of the skirt. Anybody have any questions while I'm doing this? Well, waiting in bated breath.
If you don't mind, could you share what you sell them for?
That was a really tough decision for me because, as I said, the very first one took me about 4.5 hours. And I was like, if I'm going to sell these, what do you put that time at?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I get to the ears and such, I'll show you some things that I changed to make that, to cut a lot of time out of it.
Okay.
I've now got them down to about 2 to 2.5 hours that I can make them in. It's still $35 at that. It's still, but I thought I was only going to make 1 or 2, and you make 2 bunnies and suddenly they multiply. And
Thanks.
so only make 1 unless you want a family. You okay? I'm working really hard to try and put my hands in front of the cameraman here. So basically, I've just kind of worked around some ways to try and get the time down a little bit. And obviously, if I'm doing this little picot edge, that takes some more time. But it's a really great way to use and makes it really cute.
It's a very nice touch.
Yeah, and it's
the whole bunny like the pink one with that yarn. How much does it take the whole skein?
I can get 2 bunnies out of that skein. Yeah. And I actually still have a little bit left. The problem with that skein, so if you buy that skein, don't try to put the whole thing on a cone because it's so slippery. And the minute you start working with it, it's just going to all try and do that spaghetti thing off the top of the. So you kind of have to guess where you are on the ball or measure it and see what the weight is and figure it out. And then do it in 2 parts because it's really slippery. It's really soft. Remind me when we're done. I'll grab one out of the case and you can see what that ball looks like.
This is the soft yarn.
This is the soft one from Hobby Lobby. It makes just the cutest, softest bunny. But it's going to try your patience just a little bit. But once you know, don't put the whole thing on the cone.
When you say soft, is it soft and slick, kind of like
Yeah.
with
Actually, you know what? Since you're there, if you flip open that suitcase, somewhere in there's a bag. Go ahead and lay it down. It's just, there's a bag in there. There's 2 of them in there. It's just really slick. It's a lot of acrylic in it. There's probably a bag in there somewhere.
Have you heard of anybody throwing them in the wash machine?
No.
Since they're going to be children's?
I think if I was going to do children's, I'd make sure I really secure everything on it.
How about the safety? The safety.
Yeah. All right, we're almost done with that. Did you find him? Yeah, there it is.
They're on it.
Yeah. Once that gets around, why don't you bring it? Once that gets around, why don't you bring it up here and we'll show it on the camera so that everybody back home can see it too. What was it called? Yarn Bee Soft and Slick?
Sleep.
Yeah, sleek. And I think it sells for $4.99, and I usually buy it on sale. You know, when Hobby Lobby has their sales, and you can get it like 30% off, and you get 2 bunnies out of that. That's a pretty good deal. All right. So now that I got these all, so I've got that little tiny hung hem. So this has just done the little ruffle on the bottom. Now I'm going to do 35. All right. So I can snip that. That has just completed the body. So I'm going to switch it back. Now, initially when I first did this, I really wanted to have the outfit have the same color on the collar. But then when I tried to do it, I couldn't find where that 5th row was, you know, to hang the hem. So I was like, I got to do something different. So then I switched to do the little white collar instead. Then I knew where to hang that hem. So it's got a lace collar now. Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, I've even thought about doing that.
Yeah.
Just doing, you know, if I did a, maybe like on this one, if I wanted to do it lavender, or if I wanted to do it yellow, do that little color change and go from there. Now this one's going to be a little challenging because I've got white just before this. I got all 3 of them on right now, but I mean, I go usually 2 or 3 I have on it, but really is matter of preference. You don't necessarily, although when you get to the doing the head on this, I kind of like having all the weights on it. I saw Kim just set this back over here. This is that yarn I was telling you about. And it makes a really cute little bunny. And it's super soft. If you felt it, it's really soft. But then you got to go buy more yarn.
Do you change your tension when you use that? Because it's DK.
Yeah, a little bit. Not much. Maybe like a click or 2.
Okay.
That is something I didn't mention on this. I do sometimes play with the tension of the bunny to tighten it up a little bit more than I would for normally with a sock, because once you stuff it, you're gonna see the stuffing through it. And actually, if you look at this one, I should have changed it just a little bit because that yarn was a little thinner. Really a matter of preference. I mean, if it doesn't matter to you, don't worry about it.
And I'll suggest you can always buy knee highs, white knee highs, and stuff them like that and put it in it. It also helps like that.
Yeah.
Clever. Very clever. That's a $5
A tip. I need a tip.
Yep. So I'm doing that little lace collar now. I'm again doing that little picot. I just did one for a friend of mine. She wanted one that had a little black outfit with a little lace collar. She's named it Ruth Bunny Ginsburg.
Put a pearl on it too.
I did. I wish I had a picture of it. I gave it to her right away. But it looked really cute because she looked like she was wearing like a little black formal dress. It was adorable.
I'm sorry, Miss. Why did she want black?
She wanted a black dress, but then yeah, and then she named it Ruth Bunny Ginsburg.
Oh, so it's like the judge's
Yep.
jacket. The RBG. Yep.
little lace collar.
Mm-hmm.
She had a
And
collection
her
of
pearls.
different colors.
And I should, that's something I thought about later after I gave it to her. I thought I should have done some little pearls on the neckline, but I didn't. That's the other thing that's been interesting about these bunnies, as I initially thought when I started making the bunnies that they were all going to kids. And I found that it's mostly adults that are buying it, and they're keeping them for themselves. So, am I doing a good job being in your way?
Could you post famous people collection for famous women? For Little Women.
I've also done quite a few special orders of these. I'm just checking to make sure we got all the picos there. 5 more rows. Take the weights off, and we'll hang that hem. So I'm not going to demo the ears, but the ears are basically a little tube with a heel.
Any particular heel you use? I'm learning heels, that's why I asked.
Whichever one you love.
Okay, okay.
I tend to, I don't know what they call it when you drop, well, you'll see it when I do the head here. When you drop and then you wrap the yarn around behind. Is that the wrap? I don't know.
Wrap heel?
Yeah.
Wrap heel.
That way you don't have holes.
Yep.
Or you just, you don't lose
Or
the stitch.
minimal
You don't
holes.
lose the stitch.
Oh,
I mean, for me.
I mean, when I first started, I did that 1 up, 2 down, and I could never keep track of where I was. Did I do up? Did I do down?
Okay, I'm
Did I
not the
do?
only one.
Yeah, no, I
Wrap heel is funny.
I was constantly getting lost, and I was dropping stitches, and it was not pretty. There was a lot of tears. And then I went to the sock school, and Jenny and Jamie showed me the wrap one, and I've been using that ever since. One of these days I'll try some of the others, but
Is there a book or a handout that anybody has published with different heels in it?
There's
I feel like there is.
Yeah, there, if,
Is that in the book?
That's
if you look on the Erlbacher site, I mean, like YouTube site, they have them with several people have done them. Jenny, there's got one that has Jenny on it, they have one that has Deb Oswald that did it. And so they show them on that too.
yeah. There's like Dutch heels.
Yes, there's the Dutch heels and then the
Yeah,
sweet
a little
potato
further.
heel and,
There's all kinds.
I was looking for written instructions. It's kind of.
oh,
Heels, I think heels 5 ways is the right instruction. I don't know if it's a P pattern
I'll Google
type
it.
thing.
I'll find it. Thank you.
This little picot edge, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but is a little tricky because the way the yarn finished on my other color, I have a row of white in there besides so it's a little tricky to find where I'm hanging here. I had that, I've got another one here that is in black and white and red, and I had the same exact problem on that one.
So
So,
the yarn is mottled. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, well, it's kind of a,
she hit the, she hit
So
the
you get
white
that one
edge.
section, okay.
and when I hit the, of course, when you got to the top of the thing, it hit right where the white was. And so then it took me a little longer to get that hem hung. But it works better if you've got something that really contrasts.
But since they're not loose stitches, it won't make that much
Yep.
difference. So, like drop the stitch.
Split my yarn there. right, there we are. So that's the hung hem for there. So now we're ready to start the head. So I'm going to go around. I actually go around an extra time just so because of that hung hem it's a little easier to find it. And then it's just basically a normal heel.
Oh, the head has a heel. Wow.
It's actually 2 heels. So that's the where it gets a little interesting. All right. Get my weights out here right away. So I'll add my fork weights while I'm thinking of it. Heel spring. So this, obviously just do your heel the way that works best for you. Somebody was asking me earlier how many bunnies I've made. I started out with the one, thought I would only do one. Then I thought maybe I'll make a couple more. And then I had the special order one that had the special tail. And I'm now up to over 40 bunnies. And hopefully I'll get to stop soon. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that although I have the feeling that they're going to be kind of an ongoing thing because people seem to love them even though it doesn't have to be just Easter. So I do where you drop down and then you flip that yarn behind it. It just seems to work the best for me.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, so I'll do it on this side again. Whoops, hang on. So I drop the needle and then I take that yarn and I flip it behind. I'll do it again on this side. So I drop the needle, flip the yarn behind it. It just seems to give a really nice heel and it doesn't have all the little holes in it. The tension I have on here right now is probably just a little looser than I would normally do this. I was doing a different project for this. So I probably, for most things, would tighten it just a smidge more. And so how I close the hole on that end, I've just lowered this needle. I grabbed the pearl bump. You might even want to come on this side of it to see it. If you look over on this side, I'm grabbing on the inside this pearl bump, lifting it over the needle, and then I flip the yarn behind. And I make sure that little latch is available. If it's tucked in, it sometimes doesn't catch it. I'll do it again on this side. So I lower this one, I grab the pearl bump for the next one over. Oops. Flip it over that needle. Throw the yarn behind. And there's the first heel. So I can lower the back half now. And so the bunny's head is going to be 2 heels, but I'm going to separate it with 3 rows. And then I can do the second heel. So no difference on that, same heel.
Are you decreasing and increasing on the heel?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Regular heel. So yeah, so this is a little weird because you're not used to doing 2 heels right on top of each other. So what I'm doing, where did I put my heel? So what I'm doing is this. So I added those 3 rows in between to give me a little space. I've done it both with the heel spring and without. So most of the time I forget to take the heel spring off. It doesn't matter. I've had it both ways. I mean, it works both ways. But I'm doing that 2 heels together to do that. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to make you watch the second heel, but so here you've got the body, the first heel, the 3 little rows in between, and then the second heel. So when that all gets closed up, you have your little bunny body. Yeah? And then the ears, you've got a tube with a heel. That's going to close up the ears, right? And then the second one. So that's really all the parts you need on the machine. You see everything? Yep. So then it's just assembly. So let me talk about the ears a minute. So these ears and this, it all has to be Kitchenered. So this is where the problem came in if I was going to sell them, because this takes a long time. And I don't mind Kitchenering. I actually enjoy it. I sit and watch TV and do it. But if I'm going to try and sell them, I can't spend 4.5 hours on each bunny. So I started doing where I would make a tube, and this is going to be kind of hard to see on the video. You may want to see this later. I took it on my sewing machine, turned it inside out, and you can kind of see the arc in there. Can you guys see that? You might be able to see it better when, yeah, you see it? There's the curve. So I turned it inside out. I sewed the first curve, and then I sew a second line just to make sure it doesn't completely unravel. I have done some too where I've run them through on my serger. So if you really want to secure it, you can run them through on your serger. So I did 2 of them that way. Then I just gather that bottom edge. So if you were in yesterday, you've seen some other ones where you've gathered that edge. Trim this, turn it inside out, pull it, and I've got an ear. It takes like 5 minutes versus a half an hour, 45 minutes. And you got to think too, the time to do that heel on this machine. I can crank that little heel in.
So how many rows on that did you do?
I think this is about 55, 60 or so that I do for this. You probably could count it. Did I write that on there? I don't know. I think it's about 55, 60 is about what I do. I would say 55, 60 somewhere. If you want longer ears, you can obviously add more rows, but I think that's about where I shoot for. Sometimes it depends on if I'm using like the colored. Like this one I'm doing, this has actually got that sewn here. So when you look at it, you can see that it's kind of out of shape, but that was done on the sewing machine. Versus this one was the Kitchener. Not a whole lot of difference. I mean, they're really kind of similar. And you see this one, I ran out of yarn. So I gave him a white tip of the ear. So it's fun to play with them.
Will you hold the other one up again where you sewed the
This is
sewing, the blank,
The blank?
yeah, it's the blank where you show the.
I should have done it with a different color thread so you
Oh,
can
that's
see it.
okay, I'm just trying to say, okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So you can see the curve kind of goes right here.
Mhm.
And then when I trim it, I just trim right along that curve. And it works great.
Regular sewing thread?
Yep. I just put it on my,
It's just like a cut and sew pattern,
Yep.
is what it basically
yeah,
is.
so here I'll cut this one and you can kind of see what it looks like when
Cut
it,
and sew pattern.
we'll have little pieces of yarn everywhere, but you want to see that as I cut it?
Internet is laggy, so.
Wrong scissors for doing this, but it's kind of working. We'll make a mess of their carpet. So this one I gathered the bottom, so I ran that thread across the bottom, flip it inside out.
Yeah.
Pull that thread. Saves a lot of kitchening, a lot of time.
I love that, yeah, it's a great idea.
Here, done like that. I try to, and again, for those of you that were in the ornament class, I tend to, if I'm working with the white, I try to work with the pink or something really light because you will see this through it. And on this ear, what I would do is I would take that little pink that's still on the edge where I trimmed. And I've had issues where if I didn't use a light color, like if you saw the ornaments I did, I used orange on one of them. And it leaves like a little fiber in there. And so I try to work with a really light color when I'm working with white because otherwise it will show. Yeah. Yeah. So from there, it's basically just assembly because then you have your little bunny body and you put it all together. I'm not going to get into all the assembly on it because that's all in that pattern for her. But basically, you're just cinching that little neck up. When I do these, I try and figure out which side I want to have the face on. I tend to go to the side that doesn't have the Kitchener. Just if you look, you can kind of see it's got one side is slightly higher than the other. Can you guys see that? I like it that its head is kind of down. It seems like it's got a forehead then. But really, matter of preference. Play with it. So I'd cinch that in. I'd take this long tail that I used on the bottom that I'm going to sew up to make the legs. So I just sew right up there. Then at some point I come up and I attach the tail in here and then back out. Obviously around the neck, you're going to do the two arms down the side. And then you make the face and attach its ears. So it's really not too hard.
What eyes do you use?
What eyes do I use? Great question. These I buy at Hobby Lobby. I keep buying all of them. I have a problem that I keep going and getting them all. I buy these. What size is it here? It says 7/16 inch, 11 millimeter. I have used the ones that are slightly bigger than that. I think this little guy's got the slightly bigger ones. If I look, it looks, well, maybe they're the same. They're okay. They work, but I tend to like these a little bit better.
Is that Soology brand?
Yes. They listed at $2.69 a package. So, any questions? I'm not going to get into all the assembly because we could be here all day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? No?
Adorable.
I know they're adorable, aren't they?
I just want to see the buttons up close.
Yeah,
Take a picture of it,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, come on up and take a look at anything. Feel free to ask any more questions.
You want to promote your store, Facebook?
I probably have some.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.